Welcome to a very special edition of Pizza Talk. Very excited about this one. We're back with Dan Richer, but today he's going to be making something. The whole episode's about making something unique and special. And really, this is a result of an Instagram post that our producer Brad English saw, and he kind of like went ballistic over, and he said, "We've got to get him to make this for us." And that's how it all started. And I saw the photo, and man, we're just hungry. So this is if I'm not mistaken, you're going to be making the meatball sub that you posted on Instagram. Is that the?
Yeah, we're going to start with making the bread, as
Okay.
a good sandwich starts with good bread.
Exactly, and you're using your pizza dough for the bread.
This is the schedule slightly different. We let it bulk ferment significantly more than we do for pizza. Build up a little bit more strength and gas before we shape it. And obviously the shaping is different. We do a pre-shape, a gentle ball pre-shape, and then we roll it into just like a mini batard. And then we tried doing it with this shape, a mini batard, but it wasn't ugly enough for me. I like ugly bread.
I like that too.
We're gonna just completely change the shape at the last minute before it goes into the oven.
Good. Well, you're going to take us through it, but before you do, is this something that you make regularly at Rasa?
We started during the pandemic with the sandwich. It's something that we've been thinking about for years and experimenting with for years, but we never really had the time in our schedule with the oven temperature and the physical space. So we're able to do it now, which is great.
So you make the meatballs sub or hoagie on it, but any other sandwiches besides meatball?
Yeah, we did a prosciutto sandwich, and we have maybe 5 or 6 in the pipeline ready to roll out, but we're gonna do it slowly.
Okay, good. Well, show us how you make your ugly bread, because we love ugly bread.
Yeah, so we took the dough out. It was proofing free form in dough trays, just because that's the only space that we have for storage. Then we're going to brush a little bit of olive oil on each one. And I also didn't tell you, we actually flipped it upside down.
So I mean, after you pulled it out of the dough box, you flipped it over?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got seam side up now.
Seam side up.
Okay.
And we always have issues with steam in the wood-fired oven. We can never generate quite enough for our liking. Our wood-fired oven has a pretty high dome, which we like for the pizza making, but for bread making, it makes it difficult to generate enough steam.
So does the oil help to take the place of that? Exactly. All right.
Yep. And with our final shape, it's also going to help it make it nice and ugly.
And I like the fact that it's, not formed in like a very tight torpedo like a baguette would be, or a little Italian roll, but more like a ciabatta in a sense.
Yeah, it's definitely our own thing. It's not, it's similar to a ciabatta. I've taken a lot of inspiration from that, but I wanted it to be taller. So instead of just dimpling it, we're actually going to kind of stitch the ends together.
Okay.
And create some textural components for the final loaf.
Interesting.
And we're also reinforcing the gluten, so it'll, after a nice long proof, it's gonna give that nice oven spring.
If I could describe this in my language, it sounds like what you're doing is kind of like a gentle crimping across the top of the loaf.
It is a gentle crimp.
A gentle crimp. Well, we got a new word to add to our lexicon now of terms.
Yeah. We're also going to elongate them just slightly.
So these doughs have been sitting overnight in the box.
Yep.
And again, as usual, made with primarily natural leavening.
This is 100% natural.
No yeast, no commercial yeast, just natural leaven.
No.
long, slow fermentation. Was it overnight or was it in a refrigerator?
This was refrigerated overnight. So we mixed at about 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and we shaped about 3 hours later, maybe 4 hours later. We're looking for about 40% increase in volume during bulk fermentation.
I see. When you do the crimping that you're doing, do you find that you ever lose any gas, or is it still firm enough that it kind of holds shape?
Yeah, it kind of holds shape. I really want to try these in a steam injection oven.
Yeah, you got a big pop there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounds like basically like all, artisan bakers and pizza makers, you basically work with what you've got and then you make it work. You find a method and a technique that adapts to the situation.
And you embrace the difference between this and making just a petard that you can get at pretty much any baker. I'm always looking to create something unique that is a shape of bread that's never been seen before, which is kind of a lofty goal, but
yeah.
I don't want my bread to look like anybody else's.
Well, that's the reason why people get in the tube and shoot under the river to Jersey City.
Definitely.
It's destination bread.
Yes. All right, so you just mop the oven with some damp towels.
Okay.
Create a little bit of steam.
Yeah, I can see a little steam coming out of there.
Okay. We got rice flour.
Okay. Baked crimp side up.
Crimp side up.
With the oil, with the little oil slick over the top.
Yeah, I like that the oil prevents it from sticking together completely.
Right.
Ugly.
So it creates an intentional little flaw there that you then exploit by making it work for a sandwich.
I wouldn't call it a flaw. I would call it a textural component.
Yeah, all right. It's intentional, so it can't be a flaw. Yeah. If it didn't perform funny, then it would be a flaw.
Yeah. All right. Round two.
Well, if any of you who are watching saw the Instagram post, or you want to go to the Raza Instagram page, you can probably see that assembled sandwich up close to experience what got us all excited about wanting to have Dan make it for us. But now you get to see the whole process.
Yeah.
How long do they take to bake, Dan? The breads?
About 11 minutes. It really depends on the temperature of the oven, and we have no control over that, really.
What's your ideal temp for this? Is about you up at about 600 or 700 degrees, or what?
No idea. We have one of those laser thermometers, and it just is not. It's not very accurate.
Right. But it's hot. But it's hot. Is it the same temperature that you bake your pizzas at? It's cooler.
It's cooler. Yeah. So this has not been. We haven't built a fire since last night. So
you're really working off the residual heat.
Yeah, but our oven is very well insulated. You want to switch?
Man, you're getting a lot of loaves in that small oven.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we'll be able to get about 30.
30 loaves and a bake? That's astounding. From this distance, from this shot, it looks like you wouldn't handle that many, but that's pretty cool. Now, I got it. While you're doing it, and while we're waiting for them to bake up, have you ever baked any where you actually put fillings or anything in it before you baked it? Did it almost like Stromboli style?
We have a couple of ideas for calzones.
Calzones,
but that's really the only stuffed thing that we do.
I had to ask because my mind's spinning away now. I'm seeing this dough and all the things that could possibly happen with that dough.
Yeah, there are so many possibilities. That's one of the reasons why I still feel like I'm at the beginning of all this, because there's so many ideas and so many possibilities.
Well, that's part of what we love about what you're doing at Raza is that it's a never-ending discovery process for you, and your customers are the beneficiaries of that.
And we are, because we benefit from learning all these new things and just trying new things every day.
Yes.
No, but 2 minutes.
All right. Unbelievable how many loaves you were able to get in.
Yeah, we got more. All right, now we gotta go. Spray bottle.
Create a little more steam in there. Put the door on. Okay, good.
Hot, wet towels.
More steam. Yeah, creates humidity in there.
Yeah, so it creates a nice tight seal.
Yeah.
Keep any humidity in, and it generates a decent amount.
Awesome. So it's probably arrived at all of this through trial and error and a little bit of applied knowledge, and before you know it, you have a system in place.
For steam, I've tried everything from a laundry steamer, like something you would steam a suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've tried the garden sprayer. I kind of ruined an oven adding too much steam to the oven.
Crack?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh boy, yeah. I was wondering about that because my first impulse would be to use one of those pumper steam, garden steamers, but too much then.
Yeah, too much is not good. Hot concrete basically and a ton of water is not a good.
Yeah. Well, and of course, the oven itself dictates what would be appropriate for that situation too.
Yeah.
So one of these days, you probably have some friends locally with bakeries with like steam injected deck ovens where you maybe do a run.
I'm buying one.
Buying one?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, where are you going to put it?
We just leased the space next door, so we're in the process of building that out, and that's going to have a nice oven. Well,
while we're waiting for these to bake, and we got a little bit more time on this in this segment, we're going to come back in segment 2 and actually see the finished product. But can you tell us a little bit about anything that we need to know about the prep and what happens when they come out of the oven?
Yeah, so when they come out of the oven, we're just gonna slice it down the top. We're gonna re-toast it to get it a little bit more caramelized on the edges. And then we're going to fill it with the meatballs, burrata, and Parmesan.
Meatballs, burrata, and Parmesan. Yeah. Wow. So that's going to be oozy, cheesy, and amazing. And so you're getting the big oven for next door. That means you're going to be going into a much bigger production operation and crank out more of these sandwiches, it sounds like. Yeah. So
we can only really get one round of baking in before the oven temp is a little too cold.
Yeah.
We could probably get a second one in, but we honestly just don't have enough time because we're prepping everything else too.
Yeah.
We only have that one oven, so we've got to make. How many meatballs are you making today, Jonah?
We're gonna make about 400.
We're making 400 meatballs after the bread comes out. So
how many meatballs per sandwich?
3.
So there you go. So about 125, 130 sandwiches.
Yeah.
But in the future, the possibility of
endless.
Unbelievable. Well, and another reason to get in the, what do you call that tube that goes under the between the path? Yes. I've never been on the path yet, so I want to ride it one of these days.
It's but just I will. A subway.
It's really just it's a subway that goes under the river.
Yeah.
It's kind of like going under the English Channel, but it certainly has changed, I think, the transportation scene in between the city and Jersey City and and
Yeah,
over to
I think it's just the people aren't afraid to get on it because it's just a Subway with a different name.
Yeah. But it makes everything possible. So it's on my list for sure when I come to the city. Whenever the cloud lifts, I'll be there.
You're gonna love it.
So you got your meatballs going, and did you say there's some sauce that goes on there? Is it pizza sauce or a special sauce or what?
It is the same tomatoes that we use, but we treat them very similarly. But we obviously cook the sauce for the meatballs, whereas the pizza sauce goes on raw. So it's just tomatoes, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, gently cooked, and then we drop the meatballs in to finish cooking.
Got it. All right. So you're pretty much you got all your mise en place done. You're ready to go. You got your cheese ready, and so now we're just waiting for the bread to come out.
Yeah. So in 3 minutes, we're gonna check it. We're gonna pull off our hot wet towels, let all the steam escape because we want it to then get a little bit crispy.
Okay. Well, we'll hang in on this episode. On this segment, we'll hang in until the opening of the door. I love to see steam come out. It's very dramatic. Bakers love when the steam gets released from the oven, and we'll see where it is at in the in the process, and then then we'll come back for the next segment where you pull them out and turn them into sandwiches. How much cooling time does it take from when they come out of the oven till you can slice them open and use them?
Ideally, we give them an hour, but
Wow.
it's fine. For this, we'll be fine.
So but give it a couple minutes to cool off and then slit them open.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you could pass them through the screen to us, and so
I wish I could.
Yeah, I know. We all do.
Yeah.
All right. So we must be getting close to that reveal, and
yep. We got Nick over here mixing pizza dough.
Hey everyone.
This is our second batch of the day.
2. Yep.
So you got to do at least 3 batches a day. It sounds like from the volume that you're doing.
Yeah, we do 3.
Man, that 300 pizzas a day, and you're only open for just a few hours a day. That means people are lining up. Do they have a pickup time? I think you told us when we talked last time that there's a general window for them to come, but they want to come at a time when the pizza's just coming out of the oven. So do you give them like an estimated time of arrival?
We give them a pretty accurate time. We got, for the first week or so of doing online ordering and takeout, we had to learn the system and its quirks. So we can make sure that if we tell someone that your pizza is going to be ready at 5:03, that it's coming out of the oven at 5:02.
And what time do you open the doors for that?
We do 3 o'clock until 8 o'clock. We usually shut it off about then.
So it's only 1 o'clock as we're filming this today. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so you're still in kind of prep mode and getting everything ready. You're getting all your buns baked for the sandwiches and then getting all the doughs made for tonight. Will these doughs that are being made today be used today, or will they be used tomorrow?
They're going to be used tomorrow. We have all of our
wow
trays.
And again, just to refresh for those who didn't see the last episode, once they're formed into dough balls, do they go away overnight in the fridge, or do they sit out overnight for a very slow rise?
Right now, they go into the refrigerator.
I guess in this heat, with this temperature, you can't really risk leaving them out all night.
Yeah, we can. I have so many different dough recipes, but I've found that the most consistent is doing this pretty standard bulk fermentation at room temperature, divide, and then retard in their shapes. You get by far the most even and consistent product that way.
Okay. Yeah.
But we also have same day dough, which is just a fantastic recipe, and it uses old dough as the pre-ferment.
Uh-huh.
So we just need to save a certain amount of our previous night's dough, and then we can mix at 12 o'clock and it be ready at 6 o'clock.
Not bad. Yeah, because the old dough gives
really,
it kind of ages the dough for you.
Yeah.
Quantum ages it. Yeah.
All right, we ready? Hey, Steph, can you hold this? Yeah. That's good.
Oh, there's the steam. Yeah.
It is.
Nice blast. You want to make sure your face isn't too close to the door when you pull it open. And nice little pop in the oven, right? A little oven spring.
Yep.
And still need for how many more minutes would you say before you get the color you're looking for?
I would say we're gonna put it. We're gonna set the timer for about 3 more minutes and then check.
Again? Okay. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break right now while you're waiting for these to finish up, and we'll come back and all of you join us for the next segment of meatball. What do you call them? Meatball subs, meatball hoagies. What do you call them in the menu?
Yes.
Meatball sandwiches.
Meatball.
Where I'm from, they would be called a hoagie. What's that?
Meatball parm.
Meatball parm, but no sub. The word sub doesn't appear on there.
Yeah.
In
Not
Philly,
for us, but
Philly, we would call them hoagies.
they're
But
definitely not grinders.
Grinders, yes.
They're not grinders. Definitely.
All right. But whatever you call them, it's going to be meatballs and parm and deliciousness. And we'll be back in a few minutes with Dan Richer at Rasa in Jersey City, New Jersey. Can't wait to see the finished product. Join us in the next round. All right. Welcome back to Pizza Talk. We're with Dan Richer at Rasa in Jersey City, just over the river or under the river from Manhattan, making his, well, we'll just have to use the phrase, the ugly, delicious meatball, parm
Sandwich.
not grinder. But we want to see how ugly this bread has turned out when it comes out. When we see why it's ugly and why being ugly is such a good thing.
I don't know if the lighting's very good over here, but
So it's a very rustic looking loaf, essentially.
yeah. And we're still working to make it uglier. We were just having a conversation about how these look a little too perfect, a little too nice.
And you don't want any of them to look exactly the same as the other ones. But what would you do to make it more ugly? What do you think you need to do?
I think I need to increase the hydration to make it a little bit more difficult to work with, so that the flaws of our hand movements make it a little uglier.
So,
That's the first thing I'm gonna try.
And then that's another tricky balance between not enough or too much. You know, where's the sweet spot?
Yeah, so we'll start increasing the hydration of it probably today, and we'll slowly work up. You know, we're not going to just increase it by 5% all at once. We'll work our way up with maybe 2%, and then another 2, and then another 2 until we get to that sweet spot.
Can you get close on one of those again? And remember, when you were putting them together, you were crimping the top to kind of like again enhance the randomness of it in a sense. And let's see how that sort of played out in the final bake. So the crimp almost disappears. It becomes almost like a score. Like it's like you scored it.
Yeah. So we started by scoring these, and they looked too French.
Yeah, too commercial in a way.
Yeah.
But now they've got the split like you would get from scoring, but it's again back to the ciabatta analogy. It's more ciabatta-like.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think if we had more steam, the crimps would have opened a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see how these come out in a steam injection oven.
Well, I think one of the other tricks that you showed us was, rubbing some oil on the top. And another way, I just throw this out for your trial and error, is to put a little bit more oil into the crimp, or and into the seam, so to speak, because like you said, where the oil is, it doesn't hold together and it will open up, and that's what enhances that split.
Yeah.
So I know that for some breads that I do, like loaf breads even, where you kind of put a little score down the top so that you get a split top on a sandwich loaf. If you rub a little bit of oil, olive oil or vegetable oil into that score, then it really opens up even more so. It kind of puckers open. Yeah. So when you throw that, if it works and you use it, then I want you to name a sandwich after me. That's it's on my bucket list. Have a sandwich named after me.
What would be on your sandwich?
That's a good question, because let's talk about it, because we want to talk about what makes a great sandwich, because we all have like our theories and philosophies of what makes a great sandwich. I'm actually working on a sandwich book concept, and so I think about sandwiches a lot. When we talk with Nancy Silverton, who has written a book on sandwiches and of course is obsessed with sandwiches herself, she talked about some of the same principles that are dear to me, like how air is an ingredient in a sandwich filling, and not everybody thinks about that when they see a Subway sandwich being put together with just slices of meat layered on top of each other and no curls, no spacing in between. So that's one thing that I kind of believe in. But what about you?
I'm the same way. Negative space is so important for a lot of the things that we do. We talk about that in relation to pizza, of course, with the air creating texture and crispness. We talk about air with our meatballs, and when we're making our meatballs.
Oh.
So he's rolling lots of meatballs right now, and first of all, we try to keep them really ugly.
Yeah, they're coarse. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have another textural component, but also the airiness comes from the bread that we use inside the meatballs. So one of the things about our meatballs is we don't use bread crumbs. We use big chunks of bread.
Wow.
And we soak the bread in the buttermilk that we get from the butter making process.
Because you're making your own butter too.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. We make our butter. We get buttermilk as a byproduct. We take big chunks of our day-old bread and we soak it in the buttermilk to soften it up, and all that airiness from the crumb of the bread creates airiness and lightness in our meatballs.
What kind of meat do you use in the meatball? What's your meat? What's your meat blend?
We're 50-50 beef and pork.
Beef and pork. Okay, good. And is it a kind of a coarse ground? It looks like from here that the meat's coarse. It's not finely ground.
It's not too fine. And all the animals are naturally and locally raised. So we get such incredible flavor from that.
Yeah.
All we add is a little bit of egg, salt, pepper, Parmesan cheese, a little bit of onion, and that's it.
And the bread.
Yeah, and the bread. Super important. And very high
ingredient for a lot of meatballs is just whether it's breadcrumbs or panko or in your case, buttermilk soaked bread chunks. That's a big component of what makes a meatball different than say a burger.
Definitely.
Okay. So we got the meat. We got okay. So we're talking about sandwiches and what makes a great sandwich. So obviously the quality of the ingredients and the way you handle them and the air both in the bread and in the meatballs in this case, or the way you assemble a sandwich to create negative. I love that negative space. That's a great term.
Yeah,
I'm adding that to our
black and white
dictionary.
It's like a black and white photo, right? Without the negative space, there would be no contrast, and contrast is super important from a textural standpoint and a mouthfeel and just how it creates enjoyment.
And we in our culinary classes, like at places like Johnson and Wales where I teach, the concept of contrast is so vital and so important and very few students come in thinking about that until it's pointed out to them, is the power of contrast.
Yeah.
So you're applying that there.
I mean, in so many ways, from the actual meatballs, but also to how we assemble the sandwich. So you want to get started?
Yeah, let's do one.
All right. So we're actually going to cut the sandwich instead of horizontally. We're going to cut into it vertically.
Of course. So why would you do it like everybody else? You got to do it the Roz way.
Exactly. Yeah, because I love lobster rolls.
Yeah.
And I love how it feels to eat them, where you're picking them up and biting into it kind of on a downward trajectory.
Yeah.
And it makes it less messy. And especially for a messy sandwich like a meatball sandwich.
Yeah.
If we slit it horizontally, you're just going to get sauce everywhere. This creates a nice trough.
Yes. And we can see the beautiful texture in those rolls now.
Yeah.
A big open irregular crumb, which is what artisan bakers crave in their not just their ciabattas but in their baguettes as well.
Yeah.
So there's that negative space again. No, and that's right. You're gonna re-crisp them now. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm just gonna get toasted up, get a little bit more caramelization, and I really want the cut to get a little bit more dark.
Kind of get a little toasty quality there. So you mentioned lobster rolls, which of course is one of the great sandwiches of the world. Is that something we'll ever see at Raza, the Raza lobster?
Probably not.
It's a little tricky when you start bringing seafood in and all that. But
I'm into the seafood. It's the bread. Like, I want to make our own bread, right? If we make a sandwich, it's going to be on bread that we make.
right.
And I don't know if I have the skills to make a good version of that bread.
Well, it is a different kind of a bread. It's usually a little softer, more like a banh mi type roll. But I don't see why you couldn't do it on that. Instead of throwing it back in and toasting it, just go ahead and just put the lobster and all the goodies on there. But
Not a
again,
bad idea.
But let's talk about that, in terms of, like, again, what the qualities of a great sandwich. So with textures and, and air and all the spacing and all that, what is it that makes a bite of a sandwich explode in somebody's mouth?
Depends on what type of sandwich. The sandwich is such a large food group that talking about a meatball sandwich versus a turkey sandwich versus a lobster roll, I'm always looking for the emotional component of a sandwich. Like, does it make me feel this sense of joy and comfort almost? Besides pizza and ice cream, two of my favorite foods are a grilled cheese sandwich and a bowl of chicken soup, because they're the most comforting foods that I grew up with, and I still crave them on a rainy day, or if I don't feel good, it just brings such comfort to my eating.
So even when you even say the word a meatball parm, sandwich, you're already yearning for that connection, that emotional connection, and almost a nostalgic experience.
Definitely.
And then, I think on the other side of the story is a sandwich offers so much promise of that, and when it doesn't deliver on that promise, then it's such a letdown. I mean, when you get a sandwich that's just got a few slices of cheese and ham sliced on it with a slather of mayonnaise, and you bite into it, and you go, I'm not having my emotional, catharsis right now. It's because they honor the principles.
It's still pretty good. Even a bad sandwich is still pretty good.
Yeah, but we know what's possible, and I think that's the thing that drives the artisan community and the food community these days, especially with all the exposure we have through media to what's possible in food. People want that multi-leveled experience, not just a flavored taste in your mouth, but the deeper connection. I mean, and that's not so easy to deliver.
And that's where I start with sandwiches. For me, it starts with the bread, and the internal components of the sandwich are all based on either emotion and trying to create something either from my childhood or something that really comforts me, or it's ingredient derived, right?
Yeah.
So, if we had great octopus, I would make an awesome octopus sandwich if that was available and super fresh, and any vegetable from some of the farmers that we work with, that would lead me to create a certain sandwich.
Got it. Yeah. Well, let's make the meatball sandwich. Then let's talk about some other sandwich possibilities that we might see at Raza. All right. Let's start with a beautiful loaf of bread.
Let's do the crumb shot one more.
Just end it there and just have this. Take a bite of that bread and be a very happy camper.
Definitely. All right. So then we got our pot of meatballs.
All right.
And we'll always do the first one in the center, kind of holds open the sides.
Uh-huh. In case anybody's wondering, and I don't know if you have a weight, but do you have what does each meatball weigh? Or how
90
much?
grams.
8 grams? How many?
90 grams.
90 grams per meatball. 90.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good question, Peter.
That's like 4 ounces of almost 4 ounces of, well, 3.5 ounces of meat per meatball.
All right.
All right, there
So
it
we
is.
got the meatballs in. And then we have burrata that we've actually just run a knife through to get it into manageable bites.
Is this burrata that you guys make, or do you get it locally, or where do you source
This one's actually from Wisconsin.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So now we're putting a piece of burrata in between all the meatballs. And talk about contrast here. The burrata is cold. The meatballs are hot.
Yeah. And that's the first word that went through my head was contrast. When you think about that looking at that cheese and then the bread and the meat, the 3 different textures that work here already.
Yep. And then just a little bit of Parmesan cheese.
Brings it all together.
Can we get an overhead shot?
There we go. And now this is kind of like the Instagram shot now, right?
Yeah. I also love this one when we slice it. And you get the internal view.
Ooh, yeah, I'm getting real close to my screen so I can see this. Yeah. So now, there's your meatball, and you can even see a little bit of the bread in there in that meatball. Which is kind of cool. So how do you eat that? I mean, is it something you can get your mouth around? You better take a bite on our behalf. Oh man, now we're all jealous.
I just love the hot and cold.
Yeah.
I try to bring that into some of the pizzas that we do, and definitely the sandwiches.
And so you're selling about 100 of these a day, would you say?
What was the question?
How many of these a day do you sell?
Right now we're doing about 32.
32. Oh, sorry. Yeah, 32 of just the meatballs. Or do you have other sandwiches that you're also putting together?
We just do 32 loaves of bread, and we do 1 sandwich a day.
And when they're out, they're out. What are some of the other sandwiches that you rotate into the cycle there?
We've done a prosciutto, mozzarella.
Prosciutto, mozzarella.
Yeah, a little bit of arugula. That one's beautiful.
Yeah.
And we have not put out any more because the overwhelming demand of the meatball parm. When we try to do another sandwich, everybody's like, "Give me the meatball."
Where's the meatball? Yeah. Well, that's when you have your new oven in and you can crank out more rolls. Then you can offer maybe 3 sandwiches or whatever. We've talked about vegetables. If you were doing a vegetable sandwich, what combination of ingredients do you think would create a sandwich that would evoke that same kind of emotional connection?
Well, so it really depends. It depends on availability. We take the same approach to sandwiches that we take towards pizza toppings, right? And if eggplant is in season, that eggplant's going to be phenomenal. So how do we best highlight the eggplant in a sandwich, right? So with the eggplant, I would probably cut it on the thicker side, and either salt it and then roast it, or not salt it, maybe just roast it, maybe roast it twice. But trying to pull the creamy aspects of the eggplant while still making sure it still retains some of its texture.
Yeah. Eggplant is a tricky vegetable for some people to cook with, because if you don't cook it properly and it's still leathery, then it doesn't work, and it's a negative experience. Whereas, but when it's cooked right, you get that thick creamy, but yet still sort of meaty texture, then it's a thing of beauty.
I had an eggplant epiphany a couple of years ago, a revelation, and ever since then I'm obsessed with eggplant. I love it. I can't wait till it's in season here. Because we have a good sandwich coming up.
I can't wait. Yeah. I mean, eggplant is again, once you know how to work with it, it's so amazing. And maybe, although everyone says they love eggplant parmesan, it's still a very underappreciated vegetable in this country.
I think so.
And I think it's
so difficult.
partly because it hasn't always been cooked properly.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah,
well,
and
that's
a lot of people resort to just throwing it in the deep fryer, which is not my thing.
Yeah.
But there's so many different ways to utilize it.
we love to put it, take the whole eggplant and char the hell out of it over charcoal, and then scoop out the center so we get that smoky but creamy, buttery interior, and then do a zillion things with it after that.
Do you oil the outside first, or do you throw it right on?
No, I don't bother because we're going to throw away the skin at the end, so we don't oil the outside. But we keep turning it every. My wife actually loves doing this. She does it more than I do because she loves the process. And of like every 5 or so minutes, giving it a little quarter turn, and you keep turning it until the whole thing kind of like turns into a mush bag. And when it gets mushy, then we throw it in a bowl, cover it with plastic wrap, let it steam for a minute, and then when it cools down, we start scooping everything out. And after that, maybe we'll add some lemon juice, salt, pepper, whatever, garlic. You can make baba ganoush out of it. But you can make almost anything from it, and it can be used as a relish. You name it. I mean, I think it's a vegetable that you could build a whole restaurant around if you were so passionate about it.
It's actually a fruit.
Well, is it technically a fruit? Now, okay, for those of us who are ignorant about this, what differentiates a vegetable from a fruit?
Vegetable is the plant part, the stalk, the stem, the root, the leaves, and a fruit is the fruiting body. It's the DNA component. It's the
seeds
seeds.
are carried. Yeah. Well, when you say it that way, then I'm doing, what an idiot. Of course, yeah.
Those are all fruits.
The tomatoes are fruits.
Tomatoes are fruits.
All right, we've learned something else here today on pizza. Not only how to make a great sandwich, but that an eggplant is not a vegetable; it is a fruit. So thank you for that. And again, before we run out of time, we've been talking a lot about sandwiches. Are there any other give us one more sandwich idea that you've been mulling over in your head, so we can come back and revisit you with in the future?
What? The octopus sandwich is a big one.
Yes. Yeah.
Good.
But that would be amazing. I mean, where can you get a good octopus sandwich these days? You get it sometimes as a nice appetizer at a Mediterranean restaurant, but I've never even thought about making a sandwich.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we'll cut it down the slide, and then all the tentacles would be wispy and sticking out of the sandwich.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good, man.
Ooh, that would be awesome. All right. Well, when you get that one on the menu, we want to capture that here on Pizza Talk. And Dan, thank you so much for sharing this sandwich with us and kind of expanding from the original photo that we all saw on Instagram to the actual process and some of the thinking behind it, some of the philosophy and some of the work. This is great that we're actually in the restaurant now. Last time we were in your kitchen at home and you made us a pizza. So we'll come back another time and see an actual Rasa pizza, made at Rasa as opposed to the one in your house, because again, people travel a long way to get those pizzas, and now probably a long way to get those sandwiches, because everything you're doing is really thought out. I think really it captures what Pizza Quest and Pizza Talk have been about all along, which is to celebrate the artisan spirit, which is to do things the right way. It's all about flavor. It's all about honoring the ingredients, honoring the craft, and we love what you're doing there. So thank you for sharing all that, and congratulations on all your success.
Thanks, Peter.
All right, and we will see all of you on another segment and another edition of Pizza Talk. Keep coming back. We're going to be posting new pieces. We're going to get Dan back with our pizza Yodis, because you're now like a member of the Yodi Council of experts, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of Pizza Talk. Thanks.